The security transport ship times Viridian Claw times drifted through the void towards Station Kepler 7. Commander Zixtala pressed her crystalline face against the viewing port and watched the broken station spin slowly in the darkness. Metal chunks floated around it like dead fish in poisoned water. 3 months ago, this had been a thriving research facility with 800 scientists from 12 different species. Now it was a graveyard. The atmospheric breach had killed everyone instantly. Everyone except the human girl. Target acquired, reported Lieutenant Kesmar from the scanning station. His insect-like head turned toward the commander. She's in Section 7. Life signs are stable. Zixtala felt her carapace tighten with stress. How could anything survive in that wreckage? The section had no atmosphere, no heat, no radiation shielding. Even their advanced environmental suits could only keep them alive there for a few hours. "Are you certain the readings are correct?" she asked. "Confirmed, Commander." Human vital signs. Heart rate 68 beats per minute. Body temperature 37 degrees standard. She appears to be sleeping. The bridge fell silent, sleeping, in hard vacuum, like it was nothing. "Deploy Capture Team Beta," Zixtala ordered. "Full environmental gear. Stun weapons only. No direct contact with the target." "Commander," said Communications Officer Tillotson, his tentacles waving nervously. "The Council wants her alive, but the reports about humans—" "I know the reports." Zixtala cut him off. She had read them all. Twice. Humans came from Sol 3, the most dangerous planet in known space, a world where the air pressure could crush most ships, where the atmosphere was made of corrosive gases that dissolved metal, where predators the size of transport vehicles hunted in packs, and somehow, humans had not just survived on that nightmare world. They had become the top predator. The capture team moved through the station's broken corridors like ghosts. Each step was careful and quiet. Their suits beeped softly, monitoring the deadly environment around them. Radiation levels that would cook most species in minutes. Temperature cold enough to freeze atmosphere solid. Pressure so low that blood would boil. Team leader Voxul spotted the target first. She was curled up in what had been a storage room. Her dark hair floated around her face. Her skin was pale but not frost-burned. She wore simple clothes that should have meant instant death in this environment. She looked like a child, small and thin and helpless. Voxel knew better than to trust appearances. The briefing files were clear. Humans only looked weak. Underneath their soft skin was muscle-dense as artificial fiber. Hearts that pumped liquid under pressure that would burst most circulatory systems. Bones that were living metal strong enough to support their dense bodies even in high gravity. "Target in sight," he whispered into his communicator. "Deploying stun field." The weapon fired invisible energy into the storage room. Enough electrical charge to paralyze a battle-class war mech. The human girl's body jerked once, then went still. "Target neutralized," Voxel reported, but his hands shook as he said it. Something felt wrong. Humans were supposed to be tough. That should not have worked so easily. They moved her to a containment cell on the transport ship. The walls were thick enough to stop starship weapons. The restraints were rated for heavy machinery. The stun field generators could put down a rampaging Ctherex war beast. Dr. Melndar ran his medical scanners over the unconscious human. "Fascinating," he muttered, his 4 arms working different instruments. "Her biology is completely adapted to impossible conditions. Look at these muscle fibers. This bone density. Her blood carries oxygen at concentrations that would poison most species." "Is she secure?" Commander Zixtala asked. "The restraints are more than adequate," the doctor replied. "But Commander, I must ask why the Council wants this particular human. She appears to be quite young for her species, perhaps 14 standard years. What could she have done?" Zixtala activated her personal data pad. The files were classified at the highest levels. 3 months ago, she was hired as a guide for a mining survey team. 47 trained soldiers with military-grade equipment. When the rescue teams found the survey ship, all 47 were dead. She was the only survivor. Dr. Melndar stopped his scanning. 47 soldiers? Dead? How? The official report says equipment failure, But there were no equipment failures, no signs of battle, no external damage to the ship. The soldiers were simply gone. Their environmental suits were intact but empty. Their weapons had been fired, but hit nothing. The doctor looked at the sleeping human girl with new understanding. "You think she killed them?" "I think," said Zixtala slowly, "that we have no idea what humans are really capable of. This girl survived in hard vacuum for 3 months. Alone. In conditions that should have killed her in minutes. And before that, she somehow eliminated a trained military unit without leaving evidence. The ship's engines hummed as they jumped to hyperspace. The human girl remained unconscious in her cell. Her breathing was slow and steady. Her heart rate never changed. To the monitoring systems, she looked like she was simply taking a nap. But every member of the crew found reasons to avoid walking past her cell. There was something deeply wrong about seeing a predator sleep so peacefully. Especially a predator from the worst Deathworld in the galaxy. "How long until we reach Theta Prime?" asked Dr. Milner. 18 hours, Zixtala replied. "The Council is assembling a full tribunal. Representatives from all 12 founding species. They want answers about what happened to that survey team. And if she refuses to cooperate?" Zixtala looked at the surveillance feed from the containment cell. The human girl looked so small and fragile. But the files said that humans were persistence hunters, that they could chase prey across continents without stopping, that they had evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill them, and they had learned to kill back. "Then we hope the containment field holds," she said quietly, as the ship flew through hyperspace toward the Council homeworld. None of the crew noticed when the human girl opened her eyes for just a moment. She looked around the cell calmly, studying the walls and the restraint systems and the camera positions. Then she closed her eyes again and went back to sleep. But her heart rate never changed. Not once. The council chamber on Theta Prime was the most advanced courtroom in the galaxy. 12 different atmospheric zones allowed representatives from every founding species to attend in person. Force fields separated each environment, creating a rainbow of different gases and pressures. Maya Chen sat in the center of it all, in what the aliens called a containment field. To her, it was just normal air and normal gravity. She could have been sitting in any room back on Earth, but to the creatures watching her, she was surviving in conditions that would kill most of them within minutes. Counselor Breyesh spoke first. Her harmonic language sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. The universal translator turned her words into standard galactic speech. "The accused will state her name and planet of origin for the record." "Maya Chen," the girl said quietly. "Born on Earth. Sol system." A ripple of movement went through the chamber. Several species had never heard a human speak before. Her voice was deeper than expected, with undertones that suggested a larger creature. The evolutionary biologists in the audience made notes. Humans had clearly developed vocal cords designed to be heard over the roars of mega predators. "Maya Chen, of Sol 3, continued Breyesh, "you stand accused of 47 counts of murder. How do you answer these charges?" "I defended myself," Maya replied simply. Commander Zixtala activated the holographic display system. 3-dimensional images filled the air above the chamber floor. The survey ship times Golden Venture times departed Kepler Station with a crew of 47 professional soldiers. Their mission was to map mineral deposits in the outer rim systems. The hologram showed the survey ship. It was a massive vessel, armed and armored like a military cruiser. Gunports lined its hull. Sensor arrays stuck out like spines. This was not a ship for peaceful exploration. "The crew hired you as a guide," Zixtala continued. "Your species is known for surviving in conditions that kill others. They needed someone who could work in high radiation environments." Maya nodded. She remembered that part clearly. The job had paid well. Her family on Earth needed the money. Human colonies were still poor compared to the wealthy alien worlds. "What happened during the mission?" asked Counselor Vex Moore. His tentacles writhed with nervous energy. Like most of his species, he had evolved in peaceful oceans. The concept of violence was alien to him. "We found the mineral deposits," Maya said. "Rich veins of quantum crystals in a system near a pulsar star. The radiation was intense, but I could work there safely. The crew could not. So you were the only one who could harvest the crystals? Yes. The chamber stirred uneasily. Several species began to understand the implications. If only the human could work in that environment. She controlled access to a fortune in rare minerals. Continue, ordered Briesh. Maya was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was even softer. They started talking about shares, about how much the crystals were worth, about how dangerous it would be if word got out about the find. Counselor Kith Rex made a clicking sound with his mandibles. His insect-like face turned toward the display screens. You overheard their conversations? Human hearing is very good, Maya said. We evolved as hunters. We can hear heartbeats from across a room, track prey by the sound of breathing. Your species was not trying to be quiet. Dr. Yilmar from the Evolutionary Council accessed her files on human sensory capabilities. The data made her three-way split brain calculate rapidly. Human hearing could detect frequencies and volumes that most species could not. Their pattern recognition was designed to track multiple moving targets simultaneously. A human could listen to 47 different beings and monitor all their conversations at once. What did they decide? Zixtala asked, though she already knew from the evidence. That I was a security risk, Maya replied. That I might tell others about the crystal deposits. That it would be safer if I had an accident during the next mining run. And well, the chamber fell completely silent. Even the environmental systems seemed to hold their breath. They were going to kill you, said Vexmore, his tentacles pale with shock. Yes. What did you do? Maya looked up at the assembled aliens. They saw a small human girl, barely into adulthood by her species' standards. Dark eyes that reflected the chamber lights. Hands folded calmly in her lap. She looked completely harmless. I survived, she said. The holographic display changed to show the interior of the survey ship, security footage from the corridors and common areas. Timestamp showed the final day of the mission. In the recordings, Maya moved through the ship normally. She ate meals with the crew, helped with equipment maintenance, smiled and laughed at their jokes. She looked like any young person working her first space job, but the alien investigators had studied the footage carefully. They noticed things that human observers might miss. The way Maya always positioned herself near exits. How she never sat with her back to an open door. The way her eyes constantly tracked movement and counted personnel. They also noticed how the crew watched her. 47 trained soldiers. But they moved around one teenage girl like she was a dangerous animal. They spoke to her politely, but kept their weapons close. Several crew members wore their sidearms even during meal times. The final recording shows you alone in the ship's common area, Zixtala said. The crew was preparing for sleep cycle. What happened next? Maya was quiet for a long time. When she finally answered, her voice was barely above a whisper. They came for me during the night shift. 6 of them, armed with stun weapons. They thought I would be easy to overpower while I was sleeping. Were you sleeping? No. Humans don't sleep deeply in dangerous environments. It's a survival instinct. I heard them coming from 3 corridors away. The holographic display showed the ship's layout. The common area where Maya had been resting was deep inside the vessel. The crew quarters were spread throughout multiple decks. For her to hear people moving from that distance, through multiple walls and floors, seemed impossible. Unless you had evolved on a world where predators hunted in the dark. 6 soldiers with military training and advanced weapons, said Briesh slowly, against 1 unarmed human child. Yes, they should have easily captured you. Maya looked at the counselor with something that might have been sadness. They made a mistake that most species make when dealing with humans. What mistake? They thought that because I looked small and young, I was weak. The chamber began to understand. Humans came from a world where size meant nothing, where strength came from density, not mass, where young predators were often more dangerous than old ones because they were faster and more desperate. What happened to the 6 soldiers? Asked Vexmore. Though his tentacles had gone completely white. The same thing that happened to the other 41, Maya said quietly. The holographic displays went dark. The chamber fell silent, except for the soft hum of environmental systems. 47 armed soldiers, trained professionals with military-grade equipment, had tried to kill one human teenager. None of them had survived. Maya had been sitting still for over 3 hours. The alien tribunal continued around her, voices rising and falling as different species asked questions about the mining ship incident. Holographic evidence filled the air. Data scrolled across viewing screens. Translators worked overtime, converting dozens of languages. She listened to it all while trying not to move. The chair was uncomfortable. Her shoulders were getting stiff. Her neck was starting to ache from holding her head in one position for so long, but every time she had shifted even slightly during the session, she noticed how the aliens tensed up. They were afraid of her. She could hear it in their breathing patterns, smell it in the chemical changes their bodies released, see it in the way they kept their distance from her containment area. Maya understood why they were scared. The evidence against her looked terrible. 47 dead soldiers. No clear explanation of how one human teenager could eliminate a trained military unit. Video footage that showed the aftermath but not the actual fight. She had tried to explain what really happened, but the aliens did not seem to understand. They kept asking the same questions over and over. How did you kill them? Where are the bodies? What weapons did you use? They could not comprehend that sometimes survival was not about weapons or tactics. Sometimes it was just about being what evolution had made you. Counselor Vex Moore was speaking again, his tentacles waving as he gestured at a holographic display. The ship's internal sensors show no evidence of weapons fire in the corridors. No explosive damage, no signs of a prolonged battle. How do you explain this, Maya Chen? Maya opened her mouth to answer, then stopped. She had already explained this part twice. The aliens were not listening to her words. They were looking for something that made sense in their terms, something they could understand. But how do you explain a death world to creatures from paradise planets? The accused appears reluctant to answer, observed Commander Zix Tala. Perhaps we should review the evidence again. The holographic displays activated once more. Images of the survey ship's empty corridors. Close-up scans of discarded weapons. Environmental suits that had been found scattered throughout the vessel, empty of their occupants. Maya watched the evidence presentation and felt her patience wearing thin. She had been sitting in this chair since dawn. Her back was cramping. Her legs were getting numb. The air recycling system was making a high-pitched whine that probably only she could hear, but it was giving her a headache. She needed to stretch. Maya shifted in her chair. Just a small movement to ease the tension in her spine. She rolled her shoulders back to loosen the tight muscles, turned her neck from side to side to work out the stiffness, let out a quiet breath as her joints popped back into alignment. It was the most natural thing in the world. Any human sitting too long would do the same thing. A simple, unconscious movement to relieve physical discomfort. The sound of her spine popping carried clearly in the acoustically perfect chamber. Every conversation stopped. The holographic displays flickered and went dark as operators forgot what they were doing. Translation systems continued working for a few seconds, then fell silent as no one was speaking anymore. Maya looked up, confused by the sudden quiet. 48 of the galaxy's most important leaders were staring at her. Their faces, tentacles, carapaces, and other features showed expressions she was learning to recognize as fear. Pure, instinctive terror. Commander Zixtala's crystalline body was secreting stress minerals so quickly that tiny chimes sounded as they hit the floor. The insectoid Kithrex had frozen completely, their compound eyes locked on Maya like she was about to strike. Counselor Briesh's harmonic voice box had stopped working entirely. Dr. Yilmar from the Evolutionary Council was running emergency scans on her equipment, trying to confirm what her instruments had just detected. The small human movement had generated force readings that seemed impossible. Muscle compression ratios that matched creatures 10 times Maya's size. Joint articulation that produced mechanical stress equivalent to heavy machinery. In the observation gallery, security teams were checking their weapons systems. Medical staff were preparing emergency treatments for shock and panic responses. The chamber's AI was running threat assessment protocols and finding results that made no sense. Maya realized what had happened. These aliens had never seen a human move with intent. During her capture, she had been unconscious. During the transport to Theta Prime, she had remained still in her cell. Since the tribunal began, she had sat motionless in her chair. Now they had seen what human muscle and bone looked like when it activated. Even for something as simple as stretching, to them, it looked like a predator preparing to strike. "I'm sorry," Maya said, her voice small in the enormous chamber. "Was I too loud?" The translation systems picked up her words and broadcast them to every species in their own language. The question was devastating in its simplicity. She had no idea what her small movement had just revealed. Humans moved differently than other species. They were built differently. Every casual gesture contained the potential for explosive violence. Every stretch or yawn or shift in position reminded the universe that they came from the most dangerous planet in known space. Maya's innocent question hung in the air like a challenge. Was I too loud? As if the problem was noise, and not the casual display of enough physical power to tear through most alien bodies like paper. Counselor Breyesh tried to speak, but her voice box was still not functioning. The harmonics that her species used for communication required calm and balance. Fear disrupted the delicate frequencies. Dr. Yilmar looked at her readings again. The human girl's heart rate had not changed. Her breathing remained steady. Her body temperature was normal. To every medical instrument, Maya appeared completely relaxed. That was perhaps the most terrifying thing of all. She had just demonstrated enough raw physical capability to kill everyone in the chamber. And to her, it was nothing. Less than nothing. Just working out a muscle cramp. The silence stretched on. 48 of the most advanced beings in the galaxy could not find words to respond to one human teenager asking if she had been too noisy. Maya looked around at their faces and began to understand. These creatures had never lived with real predators. They had evolved on worlds where the biggest threat was weather or plant toxins, or maybe small scavengers. They had never needed to become dangerous themselves. They looked at her small human body and saw death walking upright. She settled back into her chair more carefully this time, trying to move as little as possible. But even that tiny adjustment sent new ripples of fear through the chamber. Every movement she made was a reminder that humans were not like other species. Humans were what happened when evolution decided that sometimes the best defense was to become the thing that other creatures ran from. The tribunal was supposed to determine what had happened on the survey ship. But Maya was beginning to realize that the real question was much bigger than that. The question was what to do with a species that could turn teenagers into apex predators. Counselor Breyesh finally managed to make her voice box work again. The harmonic tones that came out were shaky and off-key. But the translator converted them into words. "Child of Soul 3, she whispered. "What happened on the mining ship? Tell us exactly what you did." "AB." Maya looked at the faces staring at her from behind their protective barriers. She had tried to explain before, but they had not understood. Maybe now they would listen differently. "It started during the third week of mining operations," she said slowly. "The crew found more crystal deposits than they had expected. Much more. Enough to buy their own fleet of ships." She paused, remembering those days when everything had seemed normal. At first, everyone was excited. We were going to be rich. The crew talked about what they would do with their shares, buy houses on colony worlds, start their own businesses, retire from dangerous work. Dr. Yilmar leaned forward in her environmental suit. "When did that change?" "When they realized how much the crystals were really worth," Maya replied. Commander Jorik ran the calculations. The deposit was worth more than some planets make in a year. But only if they could keep it secret until they finished harvesting. Maya's voice got quieter. "That's when they started looking at me differently." Commander Zixtala activated a holographic display showing personnel files. The crew was made up of professional soldiers, former military contractors. They would have understood operational security. Yes, Maya agreed. But they also understood that I was the only witness who did not belong to their organization. I was not bound by their contracts or their loyalty. I was just a human girl they had hired for one job. Counselor Vexmore's tentacles writhed nervously. They saw you as a security risk. Commander Jorik called it loose ends, Maya said. He told the crew that successful operations required clean finishes. No complications. No outside parties who might ask inconvenient questions. The chamber was silent, except for the hum of environmental systems. The alien leaders were beginning to understand what had really happened on the survey ship. They planned to kill you, said Briesh, her harmonic voice filled with something that might have been sympathy. Yes. But they wanted to make it look like an accident. If I just disappeared during a mining run, no one would ask questions. Humans die in space all the time. We take dangerous jobs because we can survive them better than other species. Maya shifted slightly in her chair, then stopped when she saw how the aliens tensed. She was learning to control her movements around them. I heard them planning it. They chose the most dangerous mining site, where radiation levels were highest. They would send me in alone, and then report equipment failure. But you survived the first 3 years of your life on Sol 3, observed Dr. Yilmar. You would have survived the radiation. I know that. But they thought the radiation would kill me slowly enough that they could recover my body and make it look authentic. They did not understand human physiology very well. Commander Zixtala pulled up medical scans of Maya from her capture. Your cellular structure shows extensive radiation adaptation. Genetic modifications that most species could not survive. Not modifications, Maya corrected. Evolution. Humans from Earth live with background radiation that would sterilize most worlds. Our DNA has repair mechanisms that other species lack. We evolved them or we would have gone extinct millions of years ago. She looked around the chamber at the aliens watching her from their safe environments. But the crew did not want to wait for radiation to kill me. Commander Jorik decided it would be faster and cleaner to stage an attack during the night shift. 6 soldiers came to your quarters, said Vexmore, reading from the investigation files. Yes, they were careful about it. Stun weapons instead of lethal ones, so there would be no evidence of murder. They planned to make it look like I had been overcome by toxic gas from a life support failure. Maya was quiet for a moment, remembering that night. They thought I would be sleeping. Most species sleep deeply when they feel safe. But humans never feel completely safe. We evolved as prey animals before we became predators. Dr. Yilmar checked her files on human sleep patterns. Humans maintain partial awareness even during rest periods. A survival adaptation from their dangerous homeworld. I heard them coming from 3 corridors away, Maya continued. Their heartbeats. Their breathing. The way their equipment clicked against their armor. Humans can track multiple targets by sound alone. We had to. To survive on Earth. She looked at Counselor Braish. I tried to avoid the confrontation. I moved to different areas of the ship, but they kept hunting me. 6 soldiers with military training, working together to corner one target. What did you do? Asked Zixtala, though her crystalline body was already chiming with stress. I ran, Maya said simply. Humans are persistence hunters. We can run for hours without stopping. But the ship was not large enough for that strategy to work. The holographic displays showed the survey ship's layout. Corridors and chambers that seemed spacious to most species, but would feel cramped to a human used to open planetary surfaces. They cornered me in the cargo bay. Maya continued. 6 trained soldiers with stun weapons. They thought it would be easy. I was young and small, and appeared unarmed. But you were not unarmed, said Vexmore. Maya looked at him with confusion. I had no weapons. Then how did you kill them? I did not understand the question for a moment. Then Maya realized what the aliens could not comprehend. I am the weapon, she said quietly. The chamber fell silent again. Even the environmental systems seemed to pause. Humans are apex predators, Maya explained. We evolved to hunt creatures much larger and stronger than ourselves. Our ancestors killed animals that weighed tons, using nothing but their hands and simple tools. Dr. Yilmar pulled up comparative biology files. Human muscle density, bone strength, reaction times. The numbers looked impossible compared to most galactic species. Our bones are living metal, Maya continued. Our muscles are fiber bundles that can generate force like machinery. Our cardiovascular system can pump liquid under pressures that would burst most circulatory systems. She stood up slowly from her chair. Half the chamber's security systems locked onto her as a target. A human child learns to throw projectiles with enough force to kill large animals. We learn to grip with enough strength to crush bone. We learn to move fast enough to catch creatures that evolved to escape predators. Maya was standing in the center of the chamber now, and 48 alien leaders were watching her like she was a nuclear bomb that might explode. The soldiers on the ship made the same mistake that most species make, she said. They thought that because I looked small and young, I was weak. They had never encountered a species where the children are designed to survive. What happened in the cargo bay? Whispered Briesh. Maya closed her eyes, remembering. They fired their stun weapons. But human nervous systems are designed to function under extreme stress. The electrical charge was not enough to stop me. She opened her eyes and looked at the assembled aliens. I did what my species has done for millions of years when cornered by predators. I fought back. 6 soldiers died in less than 30 seconds, said Zixtala, reading from the timeline data. Yes, Maya replied. But I did not want to kill them. I wanted to disable them and escape. But human combat reflexes are designed for survival, not capture. When we fight to eliminate threats permanently. The chamber was completely silent now. The aliens were finally beginning to understand what had really happened on the survey ship. The other 41 crew members? Asked Vexmore. Maya sat back down, moving very carefully. They found the bodies in the cargo bay. They knew I had killed their friends. They came hunting me with lethal weapons, and you killed them all. I survived, Maya said simply. That is what humans do. The council chamber remained silent for a long time after Maya finished speaking. 48 of the galaxy's most important leaders sat in their protective environments, trying to process what they had just heard. Environmental systems hummed quietly. Translation devices waited for something to translate. Security monitors showed flatlined readings as no one moved. Finally, Councillor Briesh managed to speak. Her harmonic voice was still shaky, but the translator worked. You killed 47 trained soldiers in self-defense. Yes, Maya replied. You were 14 years old. Yes. You had no weapons or armor. No. Dr. Yilmar was furiously checking her databases on human development. According to our files, humans are not considered fully mature until age 18 standard years. You were still a juvenile of your species. Maya nodded. Human children learn to fight early. We have to. Earth is not a safe place. Commander Zixtala activated her personal data terminal and began pulling up classified files. Information that the Council had kept restricted because it was too disturbing for most species to handle. Dr. Yilmar, please display the ecological data from Sol 3. The holographic projectors activated. Images filled the chamber showing landscapes from Earth. Dense forests where predators the size of transport vehicles hunted in packs. Oceans filled with creatures that could swallow starships whole. Mountain ranges where the air pressure would crush most aliens and the temperature would freeze their blood solid. This is where humans evolved, Zixtala continued. Not just a dangerous planet. The most dangerous planet we have ever catalogued. Councillor Vexmore's tentacles had gone completely white. The atmospheric pressure alone would kill most of our species. The oxygen concentration is toxic to 80% of known life forms, added Dr. Yilmar. The background radiation would cause cellular breakdown in most organic beings. The gravity well is so intense that ships require special shielding just to enter orbit. More images appeared. Animals from Earth that looked like living nightmares, to species from gentler worlds. Sharks that had remained unchanged for millions of years because they were already perfect killing machines. Big cats that could leap distances that seemed impossible. Primates that could tear apart trees with their bare hands. And humans became the dominant species on this world, said Braish, her voice filled with something between awe and terror. Maya watched the aliens stare at images of her homeworld. To her, they were just pictures of home, trees she had climbed, animals she had seen at wildlife preserves, oceans where she had learned to swim. But she was beginning to understand how they looked to beings from peaceful planets. Every human child learns to survive in this environment, she said quietly. We learn to move quietly so predators cannot hear us, to fight back when cornered, to never give up, no matter how injured or tired we become. Commander Zixtala pulled up more data. According to our records, humans have been in space for less than 200 years, but you have already established colonies in systems that other species cannot survive. We go where others cannot, Maya agreed. High radiation zones, extreme temperature worlds, planets with toxic atmospheres or dangerous gravity. Someone has to do the work that is too dangerous for other species. Quote, because you are uniquely adapted to survive, said Dr. Yilmar. Because we are used to danger, Maya corrected. Earth taught us that the universe is not safe. We learned to accept that and keep going anyway. Counselor Kith Rex had been silent throughout the tribunal, but now his mandibles clicked rapidly as he spoke. How many humans are there in the galaxy? Maya thought about it. Maybe 50 million on various worlds and stations. Most still live on Earth. 50 million, repeated Vexmore. 50 million apex predators scattered throughout our space. The number hung in the air like a threat. 50 million beings who could survive in conditions that would kill most species. Who could fight like weapons given consciousness. Who looked harmless, but carried the concentrated lethality of evolution's most dangerous experiment. Counselor Breyesh, said Commander Zixtala slowly. We need to discuss the implications of this tribunal. Yes, Breyesh replied. Dr. Yilmar, what is your professional assessment of human capabilities? The evolutionary biologist consulted her files one more time. Humans are not just from a death world. They are evolution's answer to a death world. Every aspect of their biology is designed for survival in impossible conditions. She gestured at Maya. This individual eliminated 47 armed opponents without weapons or training. She survived 3 months in hard vacuum. She can hear conversations through starship bulkheads and track multiple targets simultaneously. And she is considered average for her species, added Zixtala. Maya looked confused. I am not particularly strong or fast compared to other humans. I was hired as a guide because I am small and need less life support resources. The aliens stared at her. Their weakest humans were more dangerous than most species' military elites. We have been treating humans as just another member species, said Vexmore. But they are not like us. No, agreed Breyesh. The question is what we do about it. Commander Zixtala brought up detention facility records. According to these files, we currently have 12 humans in various council prisons, all arrested for similar incidents involving the deaths of non-human beings. Self-defense situations? Asked Dr. Yilmar. Unknown, but based on what we have learned today, it seems likely. Maya felt a cold sensation in her stomach. Other humans are in prison? For defending themselves? The council did not understand, Breyesh said gently. We thought they were unusually violent criminals. We did not realize we were imprisoning beings whose natural responses to threats involve lethal force. You have to let them go, Maya said, standing up from her chair. Again, security systems locked onto her, but she ignored them. Humans do not attack without reason. If they killed someone, it was because they were in danger. That may be true, said Zixtala. But it raises a larger question. How does the galaxy coexist with a species that can accidentally eliminate trained military units? The chamber fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Humans were not intentionally dangerous. They were just built by evolution to be nearly indestructible. But that made them incredibly dangerous to species who had never needed such adaptations. We need new protocols, said Dr. Yilmar finally. Guidelines for interacting with humans safely. Warning systems for non-human personnel working with humans. Different legal standards that account for their unique biology. And we need to reclassify human colonies, added Vexmore. They are not standard member settlements. They are populated by beings who could fight off invasion fleets if necessary. Maya sat back down carefully. We do not want to fight anyone. Humans just want to live peacefully like everyone else. But you cannot change what you are, said Briesh. And what you are is the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever encountered. Commander Zixtala stood up in her environmental chamber. This tribunal finds the defendant not guilty of murder. The evidence shows clear self-defense against multiple attackers who intended lethal harm. Furthermore, continued Braish, this council recognizes that previous human prosecutions may have been based on incomplete understanding of human defensive capabilities. All cases will be reviewed immediately. And Maya felt relief wash through her body. She was going home. But she could see in the aliens' faces that something fundamental had changed. They would never look at humans the same way again. Maya Chen of Sol 3, said Brayesh formally, you are free to go. But understand that your species is now a known quantity to this council. We will be watching. Maya nodded. She understood. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy not as peaceful colonists, but as the children of a world so dangerous that it had forged them into living weapons. The age of human innocence in galactic society was over. Now came the age of very careful coexistence.